I recognized, Nikki, that it's not about taking someone else's path. It's about creating my own path in my own unique way.
Adam has been a CEO and serial entrepreneur for almost 30 years. He is the founder of 3 successful real estate development companies with $1.5 billion plus in capital invested. He has spent the last 2 decades as an impact investor dedicated to the quadruple bottom line: people, planet, profits, and purpose. He is dedicated to conscious evolution, business and culture, a trained shaman, and teacher of A Course in Miracles. Adam is a published author and has spoken for over 100 radio and TV shows, talks, and keynotes. In this episode, we talk about the moment that took Adam from a $140 million deal to the jungle, a journey into the unknown, and finding purpose greater than yourself. You're listening to Going Conscious, the podcast where we discover new ways to live a more conscious life of fulfillment and freedom. Each week, I speak with entrepreneurs, academics, and changemakers who have made big transformations, left unfulfilling lives behind, and found meaning in this new world where purpose drives success. Let's get inspired to live our unique journeys to the fullest. Let's explore the impact we want to make and deepen our understanding of ourselves, each other, and this beautiful world around us. Live your freedom. I'm your host, Nikki Trott. In this episode, we talk about not taking someone else's path, but creating your own, discovering a more holistic way of being, rewilding your own life, letting go and creating a life without boundaries, evolving from real estate development to undevelopment business, and Adam's personal bottom line, the arrival of the new woman, and the language of light. Now let's go to our conversation. Hello, Adam, and welcome to Going Conscious.
Hello, Nikki. It's great to be here with you, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be speaking with you. And before we dive in, I just wanted to clarify the term impact investing, because I know that this is part of what you do, and just to make sure that our listeners understand what impact investment is. So from my understanding, it's when we invest to generate financial returns, as is traditional investing, but also to create positive social or environmental impact. So is that a fair definition? And how would you describe impact investing?
Well, that's a wonderful definition, and I would also add that when we create our energy, our focus, our purpose, it creates greater impact. So love that, and been in the impact space for going on 20 years now. Hard to believe, but look forward to exploring making some more impact together.
Yes, thank you so much. So Adam, I mean, like you say, you've been an impact investor for 2 decades. You've also been a CEO and serial entrepreneur for more than 25 years. You founded 3 successful real estate companies. So you have an incredible career behind you. And I'm wondering, how has purpose been involved in that journey? Has purpose always driven your business? And how has this evolved?
Well, that's a great question. And it most certainly has evolved, because purpose didn't drive my business for much of my career. It wasn't really until later in my career in real estate and investment banking and investment primarily in the environmental sector that I began to realize that I lacked purpose. The purpose for me was how to create impact in my own bank account, and was more serving of myself and my family, which is of course fine, but to one extent, but at the other extent, I wasn't creating the kind of impact that I wanted to create in the world. And actually, I wasn't even feeling good at the pinnacle of my career. So it definitely took a course correction to really refocus on what is my purpose and what is the expression of that in my work and my career. And that's when I began to dance. And maybe you've had some thoughts around this, Nikki, around vocation versus work. And I begin to lean into vocation. How can I serve that which is greater than myself? And I'll never forget, someone asked me early on, I think it was on on a radio show one time, and they asked me, "So what are your greatest accomplishments?" I said, "Well, my three daughters, by far and away." And the other was retiring from being an earth conqueror, someone without purpose. So I'm very happy to be leaning more fully into purpose and my mission on the planet at this time.
Amazing. So what caused you to have that realization that you weren't happy, you weren't aligned with your purpose, although you were very successful in the traditional terms? Was there something, a particular event, or what happened so that you came to realize that?
Well, thank you for that, because it's important, at least in my journey, there was a build up to an event. And that build up is that I wasn't really feeling that good. My outside picture was reflecting kind of what was going on inside of me. And that outside picture was overwork, not a nice person, drinking too much, not tending to my well-being or my family to the extent that I needed to. And I lived by the law of the jungle. And that law essentially goes, when the sun comes up in the morning, whether you're the lion or the gazelle, you better run like hell or be eaten. So my frame of mind was very focused on eating. It was that traditional predatory mindset that had been, that's what I learned, and that's what I was taught, and that's what drove me in all that I did. And it wasn't serving. As I said, I wasn't feeling well. And one day I was driving from my home in Malibu in the Range Rover down the Pacific Coast Highway going to my offices in Los Angeles. The sun was coming up. I was working on the largest transaction of my career. It was a $140 million transaction. And I was on the phone with a Wall Street investment banker getting ready to close that deal when he informed me that he was going to retrade the deal, meaning change the terms of the deal in the last minute. It was kind of a form of blackmail in its own way. And I exploded just with anger and shared some not so kind words, which I won't share here, with him. But in that moment, a dog ran right in front of my car, and I swerved, nearly killing it. I thought I was having a heart attack, and I actually pulled over, and my whole system began to break down. So that was the moment that I began to realign my purpose that I had to a greater purpose that I really needed to look more deeply within my own values and ethos and principles. And that's what tripwired the rest of my journey up until this date.
Wow, what a story. And the person you describe, I can't imagine, having got to know you a bit, Adam, not being a nice person and not tending to the well-being of yourself and others. And wow, it sounds like a completely different person. So how did you then take that shocking moment and being in that place of breakdown to then finding out what your purpose was, what you wanted to drive your life from there on?
Well, it's most certainly been a journey, and I'd very much say I'm still in it. I'm still here, so I'm in that evolutionary impulse to really evolve myself in the highest ways and to become the best human I can be in service to the planet, in particular our children and their children. So it's been a quite a journey over it's basically 18 years now. Hard to imagine. And I just turned 60, as a matter of fact, yesterday. And
happy birthday!
Yeah, I love it. And
congratulations!
Yes, it's been wonderfully reflective. And people these days who knew me then, they're like, Adam or Hall, I don't even know who you are today compared to the life that you were living. And so it was a complete, what I would say, in retrospect, a mindset shift to shift fully into more of a holistic way of living, a more intimate way of being with myself and with others, and in particular Mother Nature. So I took the journey, so to speak. I went on that proverbial hero's journey, or heroine's journey if you're a woman, and I took that journey in earnest. I went all in, and so I ended up stepping away, unfortunately, from my marriage. I needed to do that, and I ended up stepping away from business as I knew it, because without taking the journey and tending to my own calling, I think I would have been either soul lost or very likely maybe even dead. So I began to practice initially yoga very intently, Ashtanga, like really powerful power yoga. And then I began to read prolifically. Again, I hadn't been reading like I do now. So I was in that journey of exploring. I've been looking at different modalities. I began exploring Eastern philosophy, Western philosophy, different traditions. I got really and continue to be really into A Course in Miracles. I'm an 18-year student of the Course in Miracles, and I now teach that as part of it's integral to my work today. So I went all in, and I began the journey, traveled the globe, and that seeking mode. I got into the place of seeking that which was greater than myself. So it's been an exciting journey. It's been very rich. I've had great teachers, and just living every day to evolve myself and make myself a better human being with practice, mindful practice, just doing that inner work before I do anything else in the day. So that gives you a little bit of flavor overview of that journey. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, absolutely. Incredible. And so this journey for you with intent practice of Ashtanga yoga, reading a lot, traveling the globe, how did you know what steps to take when on this journey in complete turnaround of your life?
Well, that's a really important question, because it is the journey into the unknown. And of course, that it was initially very fearful. Of course, I didn't know what the unknown was, but I was terrified of stepping and taking walks in the jungle at night, or going to very high altitude places in the Andean mountains in South America, 15, 16, 17,000 feet. So I began just to step into that, and quite frankly, I didn't know which way to go. Was it more traditional forms of, say, a Buddhist practice or a Hindu practice? I ultimately gravitated to two practices that I intuitively was listening to, which I kind of resonated with. And one was A Course in Miracles, as I mentioned. The other one was indigenous wisdom, shamanism. So I began to walk the path of and take the journey of the shaman, and eventually met one of my teachers on that journey, Alberto Villaldo, an amazing, beautiful brother and human being. Remain very connected to him and all the great work that he is doing. But it took a lot of learning and unknowing, and a little bit of going down one road and then say, no, this doesn't feel like the right place. And I had and maybe some of you, and maybe you do as well, have kind of an independent streak. I just knew that I needed to do it, my way, so to speak, and do it the way that felt right for me, even if I got lost. And I did get lost on the way. But ultimately, I recognized, Nikki, that it's not about taking someone else's path. It's about creating my own path and my own unique way. So most of my learning and unlearning have come through that journey of the unknown. And in that place, I was able to guide myself intuitively and uniquely into, what my soul was calling to do here, what that purpose was, what that mission was. So that's a little bit about what that journey has kind of looked like and felt like, and very difficult at times, and lots of tears and agony and lots of surrender. But it's been exciting and joyful as well, if you know what I mean.
Yes, absolutely, I do. And so what was the hardest thing about that journey for you?
Well, not one of them. The first trip I went on to Peru in 2004, I'll never forget the words that Alberto shared with me. And we shared it in small group. And he says that the objective, if the shaman has one, is to get out of this lifetime alive, while you're alive. And that was followed up by some times in the jungle, further deeper into the Amazon jungle. I go and I travel to a lodge there up the Madre de Dios, the Mother of God River. What a name, right? Ain't that the truth? So I go to a lodge there, a wonderful lodge, and they do lots of ayahuasca there, as much as a lot of great jungle adventure. And then had some sessions with the ayahuasqueros and the masters, and dropped deeply into the womb of the earth, the Amazon jungle, the mother's womb. Steamy, rich, vibrant. Everything's alive, even if it's dead. And I begin to realize two things. That one, that the law of the jungle that I thought was eat or be eaten, that ain't true. Okay, that was a big moment. And then the next moment that I really felt that posed the greatest challenges was to journey to die consciously, and to allow the mind and the life that I lived and the beliefs that I lived for lifetimes, if you believe in that stuff, to die away. And so that has been the most difficult part of the journey. It wasn't a moment. I can identify very difficult moments, but the idea of dying consciously in this lifetime really has posed the greatest and most difficult challenge of this journey to date, by far and away. Yeah.
So to die consciously, what did you then experience? Was there then a rebirth, or how would you describe what came from that process?
Well, the rebirth, of course, is part of the transformational process, death and rebirth, right? And ultimately, it was the journey to the rebirth. And that's what was really fascinating to me. And I would describe it, Nikki, as, well, I read a book early on by Gary Renault. He's a well-known miracles writer and teacher, and he wrote a book called Disappearance of the Universe, kind of back in early 2000s. And I liked it, but I didn't get it because I wasn't quite living the experience of seeing the world as I knew it disappear or evolve and fall away. And so this experience in this journey to the rebirth was predicated or was precipitated by a shift of my mind away from ego, separate mind, limiting beliefs, whatever we can talk about in that arena, the healing journey, so to speak, into ultimately coming into a new mindset of that was like, we're letting go of things, what was, and now I can now really either describe it as like paint like you have a canvas, and the canvas is full of our life and my story, but it all disappears and it's just a white canvas. And now I'm in the journey of painting a new painting the journey that is guiding me forward, and listening to my guides in the spirit to help me to do that. So it was an evolutionary journey. It was an evolution of my consciousness to let go, to let die away, to merge into whole mind, God mind, Christ mind, Buddha mind, whatever you want to call it. So it's been quite a ride, and not easy at times. I think you know what I mean.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Wow. What a journey.
Yeah.
I love how you describe the canvas and then the blank canvas. And for some reason, when you spoke those words, a question popped into my mind, which is, did this experience change your perception of time?
Oh, most certainly. Most certainly. And this was of course, I've looked at time, space, reality in duality, the world we live here in the 3D space. And it's very linear, and of course, created in Chronos, which is the time that in the calendar created by, well, really old mythologies, church mythologies, all kinds of other things. And I won't go off into that. But ultimately, it shifted me away to understanding time and evolution from two perspectives. One was that 3D perspective we live in every day. We got on this call at a such and such time, and 24/7, all of that kind of stuff, and which is a very 3D experience of time. And then crossing over into what I would describe as more of a 5-dimensional, more of a holistic connection to not only each other and the planet, but also into the quantum field, into other spaces, and realizing that this is Kairos, which is no time. And to come to understand my life's journey, both in time, 3D reality, as well as my life's journey out of time, my soul's journey out of time. And it was quite relieving to me to know, Nikki, that my soul, I'm just here walking through. I've been walking through lifetimes, and I will continue to walk through lifetimes should that be what is chosen for me, or maybe I don't come back here. But it made it easier for me to know that every day I'm just showing up in time to evolve my soul and journey through lifetimes out of time, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. Wow. And so, Adam, I mean, going from £140 million or dollar deals to the Amazon jungle, how did your relationships change with your friends and your family as you went through this process?
Radically. There was nothing that wasn't put on the table. And at least for me, in my view of conscious evolution, that's what it takes. And I chose to, and I'm choosing to go all the way with this, my soul's journey. And the idea of doing that was a letting go, a willingness to let go of relationships, a willingness to let go of attachments to monies or material things, a willingness to let go of pain and trauma that I experienced in this lifetime, a complete recapitulation of the journey that I had been on. And in the shamanic world, in our work, we do work through lifetimes, both backwards and forwards. Not to get off in that kind of stuff or get even woo-woo with that kind of stuff. So the work was both in this lifetime as well as other lifetimes. And in that journey, yes, many things and people and life experiences and beliefs were let go, but so was the trauma. So is the healing. I'm still in that. There's no end to this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here talking to you, because I would have completed my soul's journey. And ultimately, that said to me, it's an evolutionary impulse. It's driven by the light and the power that drives the regenerative force in nature, in the supernatural world, in the quantum field, and has brought me to a place of applying that in the world that we're living right now, to bringing that to new ideas and the evolution of business, for example. And so it's very exciting to be in the journey, although having to create a new redesign, a new blueprint and architecture of my own life into, well, let's say Adam 1.0 to Adam 2.0. So here I am. You got me the 2.0 version.
I'm grateful. I'm very grateful. And it really sounds like shedding of your old skin, and shedding of things, like you say, from even previous lifetimes, and really letting go of things that you defined yourself by as well, and really a complete new sense of freedom. Is that something that you experienced through all of that letting go?
Well, 100%. And as much as I felt the sense of liberation, there was also the grasping to hold on. And it's quite subtle, and I'm continue to be in the journey of that idea of holding on to what was, or the experience here that I'm having now, and let's just say this 3D world. But it did offer, and it does offer, the freedom. It has offered, and I'm experiencing the liberation. And I think more profoundly, and you will likely relate to this, to the sovereignty of a being, and also a deeper connection to Mother Nature and all things feminine, that offer really that unbound, wild, unabandoned nature that I think resides within all of us, either as men or women. So just the idea of rewilding my own life is giving me that freedom, and it speaks, volumes to, how I live my life, and how I'm stepping onto a new playing field. Only this playing field doesn't have any boundaries. It doesn't have a beginning, middle, and end, which is freedom. So I'm just getting warmed up to have fun with that. And I look forward to more of it with wonderful co-creators like you, and all the good work that you're doing, Nikki.
Oh, thank you, Adam. A life without boundaries. Such beautiful, strong words. If you enjoy Going Conscious, please subscribe for a new episode every Wednesday. If you think your friends and networks would benefit from listening, please share this podcast of fulfillment and freedom with them. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review. It's great to read what you think, and your support makes a big difference. Together, let's grow our courage and tools to transform and live the lives we really want to. As well as creating Going Conscious, I work as a transformation coach and conscious brand consultant. I'm on a mission to help holistically maximize conscious entrepreneurs to drive positive changes for themselves, others, and the planet. I can help you to transition and level up personally, and I can help your brand grow and make a bigger impact. To connect with me and find out more about how we can work together, find me on Instagram @NikkiTrott or on my website nikkitrott.com. Please get in touch. I'd love to hear from you, and let's talk about your path of growth and development. And so, how have you brought together this incredible spiritual journey with business? Because I've seen so many times in my own life and journey and in those of my clients that often when we really need to make a big change and we finally see that and take action, we swing right the other way. We need to. And we go to experience perhaps the other extreme. And then at some point, we start to look at how can we bring together also perhaps the experiences from our past with the knowledge that we've gained and the new perspectives to find a way forward which integrates our own spiritual journey and perhaps the impact that we can have on the world. So what did that look like for you?
Well, you're spot on. And I too swung in the other direction. And let's remember, it swings equally distance as far as I needed to go, say, out onto the periphery, maybe almost not even wanting to live at times. I felt that I was on the edge and I didn't know if I was going to make it. And ultimately, it swings back into the other direction, just like a pendulum. And I could have gotten stuck in there. And I think, hey, it's not bad hanging out in the ashram or the teepee. And I love being on a spiritual adventure and these type of things. And so I begin to explore that. Many even start to reject the world. Money's a bad thing, or your belief system. It's funny, with some of the most dogmatic people I've ever met are supposedly or spiritual, or supposed to be the most, they claim to be conscious, but it's anything but. So what I found in the integral journey, which is the coming back into center, being that fulcrum, that center point, and creating equanimity both in the spiritual journey, which I will describe as the 5D piece, and then in the integral, the 3D world, is what comes back to center. Well, first of all, things that are indelible came back to center for me. The things that were always true, like my children, have never went away. Things that were important to me remain: my love of nature and adventure, and want my intention to connect more intimately in the world and become just a better man. Those things were actually uplifted and given more life force, more chi. But coming back to the center in the business world was interesting. And I say interesting because I had early on, I'm a huge Joseph Campbell fan. I don't know if all his work, he's so prolific, but just up my house here from Santa Barbara, there's a school, Pacifica, that houses his library. He gave his library to the school. And I remember early on reading, and Campbell said, when you come back from the woods, and I'm paraphrasing, when you come back from the woods, you come back from that spiritual journey, that adventure, that quest, that hero's quest or that heroine's quest, you can do one of four things. And he says, well, and the first was, you could say, fuck it, this is terrible. I don't want to be here. This is madness. This is chaos. And you can go back to the woods. You can go back to the temple. You can go back to the ashram or whatever, or teepee or whatever it is. And the second thing was, you say, you know what? You just surrender the goods. You surrender the gems. And you go commercial again. You just get back into the same old thing. You become the predator, like I was. And you do the commercial thing. The third thing he suggested was, well, you come back and you bring forth the gems. You bring forth new ideas, new ways of thought. You risk becoming an outcast. You risk being canceled, like we have now in our culture. And you show up to offer humanity, culture. You bring to your family this new found wisdom and application of the wisdom in the world. And The fourth thing he said, if all else fails, you get a job teaching these basic spiritual conscious awareness at the local city college, and you share it with those that will listen. So I chose the third one. I said, that feels right to me. And I asked my guides, take me where I need to go. Take me, Mother. Take me, Father. And what happened is it took me into realigning my business of development into a business of undevelopment. I said, how can I look at the land and undevelop it? In other words, protect it. So I created a model that's become quite a prolific model in this arena of eco building to create the vast majority of spaces that are aligned with conservation. And I use the tax codes to play into the economic equation in the United States. That's applicable here. And built a new model that began to do undevelopment. So I did some projects in Colorado, and I did some things in Big Sur in California. And but ultimately, the real estate biz is a very tricky business because the stars, the sun, and the moon need to align with capital, big capital, as well as many, many other things. And I got the message that my work was really to be out in the world speaking and sharing and writing and teaching the best that I know how, other major figures and people and just everyday people that want to really up-level themselves into their 2.0 version. So that's a little bit of the journey into the evolution of my business mind, my entrepreneurial mind, and it remains very, very alive. And I'm excited about some of the things coming forth.
Wow. So can you tell us more about your model of undevelopment?
Yes, and I early on we called, it was like, what's a sustainable model for development? Real estate. Now we're talking specifically to real estate. We're not talking about personal development or personal undevelopment. So in the real estate arena, let me just give you an example. When I came to back from one of my journeys to Peru, one of my favorite places in the world is Big Sur, and remains that way. And as a real estate entrepreneurial mind, I was always looking, or just say an entrepreneurial mind, I was always wondering what was going on in the real estate world. I mean, if you're in another place of business, you as an entrepreneur, whether it be a medical field or technology or science or AI or whatever it is, what's next? Where does there lie opportunity to do good, not exploit? And so I began to look at how to take a piece of land. In this case, it was 400 acres, 1.5 miles of ocean frontage, that had all this development potential. And instead of saying this needs to be developed and I want to make millions and millions of dollars, I thought, well, how can I conserve it and undevelop it to just have a minimal amount of development that was harmonious with the land? So fortunately, there's some tax code and things in the U.S. that are prolifically used in this space of conservation. And we put those into place. I ended up conserving that property, coastline, dropping the development value, the development rights down to a minimal imprint on the land. And so that model was very powerful because it balanced both the economics and with the needs of the environment and the community that lived around them. So it created a balance between those two. So that's a little bit, without a lot of detail, that's kind of, hopefully that gives you a little bit of idea how I created a model and supported a new model emerging using both tax laws, using people that wanted to do impact investing, because my partner at the time was an impact investor in his own right, in his soul he was. And he also said, I can, write you a $20 million check. I said, okay, let's do it. So we did.
So you talk about how your impact investing is powered by, using your words, the quadruple internal bottom line: wealth, worth, wisdom, wilding, and women. Can you tell us more about this?
Well, I love that you asked me that. And this is one of the most important things and places that I'm leaning into. And it's an outgrowth of the idea of the impact investors' bottom line, meaning people, planet, profits. And then way back when, I added another word that became very popular. It became popularized as the quadruple bottom line, I just added purpose. And everybody was talking about the triple bottom line. I said, well, that's not enough. So the idea of the quadruple bottom line, Nikki, and moving into your question more specifically about wealth, wisdom, wilding, and women, really was driven by this evolution, my own evolution of what is my personal bottom line? What is most important to me in this journey? And so I began to lean into wealth. I am a capitalist. I like making money. There's no course study or anything that I've journeyed or philosophy of how I've adapted life that says there's anything wrong with abundance at all. It's just in proportion, and how we share it is really the only question. Nothing wrong with making, loads of it. So I begin to lean into wealth. I begin to lean into worth. I'd often have a financial statement, and I look at that like almost too much, really. And what is my net worth? And then I begin to say, well, wait a second. Along the way, I've developed a sense of wisdom with all this experience. So what is my wisdom? And then wilding. I deeply connected to the mother and nature, and she's the most powerful force of rewilding, regenerating that there is on the planet. And I feel that her the ability to biomimic Mother Nature and rewild oneself it's powerful, to be the conscious co-creator, the evolutionary of your life. And then lastly, women. And this came through not only my relationship with my 3 daughters and now 5 granddaughters. Wow, hard to believe. But my relationship with my mother and the pain of that journey, and my relationship with other women that have been my greatest teachers. And I developed this personal bottom line that these are the 5 things that I believe provide the most powerful evolutionary impulse to evolve the consciousness, the collective consciousness of humanity right now. We're just at the precipice of a leap, a quantum leap. I call it the evolutionary miracle, or not. And, notwithstanding all the great challenges we face and the chaos in the world and whatever it may be, but it's really a great opportunity. And so the application of your question is, I look at true wealth, and true wealth is both inner wealth of my own health, my joy, my love, my kindness, my compassion, the abundance that I know, or at least I should say I'm learning to know more deeply and more intimately, along with outer wealth and the material world. And they're not mutually exclusive, as you speak about so beautifully. They go together. So true wealth. The next piece was the worth. What is that true worth? And my worth was trying to be established by my bottom line net worth on my financial statement. How many zeros were there? No, I recognize. No, my true worth is an inner self-worth, a self-acceptance. If there's anything that's evolved more steeply for me, Nikki, in the last year. It's a deeper love of myself, to love myself to the places that felt most unloved. So that is how I think of worth. What is your sense of worth? And then also the idea of wisdom. And every single one of us has this great wisdom. We were born with this original wisdom. It goes to the core of my writing that's coming out. And what I write about today is that we have this wisdom through our own life experiences. And wherever walk of life we come from, there's great wisdom. And the journey I've found is to share it. Share it, shine it, shine it. Next would be rewilding. I know this is one of your favorite arenas of your life a little bit, having seen some of the books you've read and how you're living your life in harmony with Earth. But we're going to need to change our sense of how we exist on this planet. In the indigenous world, we call it Aini. What is our Aini? Ayni. What is our relationship with the mother? What is our relationship with others? What is our relationship ultimately with ourselves? So the idea of rewilding, there's no more powerful force than the ability to rewild our lives. We can do anything, right? It's a miraculous operating system we call the human body and all that comes with it. And then lastly, perhaps the piece in the one of those 5 W's, the one that really lands on me most deeply, being a man that grew up steeped in the patriarchy, steeped in the ideas of misogyny and the being diminishment of all things feminine. And let's make no mistake, it's very evident that that's where our collective culture has come to, and the destruction of our biodiversity and rainforest are obvious, and our whole relationship with anything feminine, not just women, is just it's led it to the edge, to be quite frank with you. And I believe that the emergence of the feminine, and let's call it the new woman, not the feminist woman, or not necessarily the woman that has adopted the ways of the patriarch and the masculine just to survive in this world, but this new integral woman is key. And we're seeing leaders around the globe, like in New Zealand and other places. Citibank just has a new chairman that's a woman. Yeah, there's a lot more to do, but ultimately, my mission is to support women and all things feminine. And I have a lot of daughters and granddaughters that I love supporting. So those are the 5 W's. That's how I arrived at that new personal bottom line in my life. And I'm encouraging others to maybe explore that for themselves and see what that means and how that can change their own personal life and how they can manifest even more greatly to find their joy in the world. That's a bit of a long answer. Thank you for bearing with me, and thank you for asking that most important question. It's right on my heart. I appreciate you for sharing today with me.
Thank you so much, Adam. And I absolutely love how much clarity you have around your personal bottom line, and then how you bring that into everything that you do across your life, including, of course, business. And I really love how you talk about this inner wealth and outer wealth and bringing those together, and this much more holistic way of looking at life. And that's, as you know, something I'm passionate about and something I work on a lot with my clients and students of my mastermind, because we're so often thinking about one or the other, or we have completely siloed approaches to our inner care and then to our outer worldly strategies, and they don't seem to fit together holistically. And that is always a recipe for disaster, because we're trying to be so many people at the same time and show up in the world in so many different ways, instead of creating one clear vision for how we want to walk our path and how we want to make our impact. So I love how you describe that with so much clarity. And it's really special hearing about your daughters and your granddaughters and how you bring this arrival of the new woman, which is within all of us, of course, whatever our gender might be, but the absolute necessity of that for us to be able to find a way to live in harmony with ourselves ultimately and with the nature around us.
Beautiful, Nikki. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that and shining that in the world and showing the way forward. You know, we're here together, right? We must come together to do this. As a man, I can't do it by myself, and as a woman, we do it with our man, and we do it with the women, and we get to do it together, which makes it so joyful, right?
Absolutely. Exactly. I truly agree and believe it's all about collaboration and coming at this task, which we might call it, with such a sense of abundance that we know that there is so much work to do, but that we can all make a difference as well. And the more that we collaborate, share, and come together, the more we can help the collective consciousness to shift.
Yes, yes. And it's time, if I do say.
I certainly hope so.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
It
indeed.
feels that it's time for me too, but I sometimes wonder whether that's really just some kind of illusion within myself or whether it's a reflection of something far beyond me. And I suppose we'll never really know.
It sounds like a yes and. It's brilliant. Absolutely, and it's nice to be sharing and exploring with others that are listening to that, both say within our own lives, but also what's being asked from that which is far beyond maybe even our grasp at times. And ultimately, there's much to be said and much to be explored around that which is reaching out and generating, say, the light field or other types of energy that can't be seen and necessarily can't be heard. And the ancient ones use this energy and this vibration, in particular the Mayans and other cultures that were here initially. They referred to it as the language of light. They spoke the language of light. And so it's nice to tune into both those 3D, practical on the ground applications, and let's just call it quote unquote reality here. And also from a shamanic perspective to attune and listen to the field and the 5D connection place in real time, which is out of time. And it's a fun playground, as I was saying, and it's great to be in the classroom of the Earth School together.
Thank you, Adam. It's wonderful to be in the classroom of Earth School with you too. And the language of light. Wow, I absolutely love that. I could talk with you for hours. But as we're coming to the end of our conversation today for Going Conscious, I want to ask you if there's a key takeaway or message from our conversation which you would like to share.
Well, I would a little bit here and keep it very brief. But first of all, it's just a joy to be here with you. It's a joy to be sharing with all of your listeners. So thank you all for tuning into what work I'm doing, but also what great work Nikki's doing in the world. And of course, that's a big invitation for us all to come together. So I'm in the place of the together and celebrating the joy of it. And I've been very excited about the infinite nature of what's possible here for us. And what's possible is not about sustainability. It's about how we adapt and we want to play this ever-evolving game we call life. And I'm just excited to be on that playing field and look forward to more high excitement in the world with everybody. So you've inspired me today. I've just loved being here with you and all of you, and excited to continue this journey together on this miraculous little ball that's shooting through the sky in the middle of nowhere, but seemingly we're everywhere, right here on the belly of the mother we call home, the beautiful blue planet, Earth.
Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful ending. I feel like you've just shot me out into space, Adam. So I only have one very last question for you. There's nothing that can follow that, which is, where is the best place for our listeners to find you and your work online?
Well, thank you for asking that. And my website is certainly the best place to see the work I'm doing and the offerings that I'm just giving out into the world. And that is adamhall.solutions. It's www.adamhall.solutions. And you can also reach out to me there, ask any questions, explore ideas. I'm here to support, to be of service, and to collaborate on creating and innovating the new Earth together.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Adam. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to speaking with you again very soon.
You're so welcome, and blessings to you, Nikki, and everyone.
I hope you enjoyed this episode with the wonderful Adam. It's incredible to hear how he completely changed his life and went on a path of self-discovery, how he went fully into this journey. And then, when he was ready, brought things back together again with everything he had done before, from shamanic wisdoms and his new learnings right through to then using real estate as he had been doing before, now for undevelopment and conservation. As we discussed, often through a big awakening process, when we surrender to it, the pendulum swings just as far the other way from the life we had before. This can be a very daunting process with real growing pains and much to let go of, but in the end we find ourselves reborn as who we truly are. I love how Adam talks about rewilding his own life. What a powerful image. He reminds us that when we realize that the boundaries and constraints of our lives are created in our own minds, from our conditioning and fears, we can take our lives into our own hands and crush those boundaries. It was wonderful to hear from Adam how he sees the arrival of the new woman and how this process is leading to a rebalance in the masculine and feminine energies in each of us and in the world, which is so needed for regeneration and positive, harmonious growth. It warms my soul to hear such an incredible man recognize and talk about this rebalance and its importance right now. There is still a lot of fear around this from the masculine, which is holding on, but I do also believe that a much-needed rebalance is happening, however long it takes. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe now. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star rating and short review. If you think people you know might benefit from listening to Going Conscious, please share it with them. I know I get much of my inspiration from podcasts which are shared with me. For all episodes, our library and more, visit goingconscious.com. Your support to spread this positive message of fulfillment and freedom means so much. As well as hosting Going Conscious, I help conscious entrepreneurs to transition and unleash their power and purpose with my transformation coaching and conscious brand consulting work. Discover more on Instagram at Nikki Trott or on my website, nikkitrott.com. I'd love to hear from you and to talk about your goals, questions, or how we can work together. And if I don't hear from you before then, see you next Wednesday on the next episode of Going Conscious. As always, live your freedom.